A gentle CEO enters his own dealership incognito, and the words of a salesman to a struggling single mother freeze him in his tracks, igniting an unexpected chain reaction that catches everyone off guard. Derek Belton appeared to be an ordinary man, not someone who wielded the authority to sign paychecks for 137 employees. He lacked a blazer, didn't have a briefcase in tow, and certainly didn't arrive with a chauffeur. That morning he wore worn Levi's, sneakers that had definitely seen better days, and a Tennessee Titans cap pulled low over his brow. He was unrecognizable, in this state, even to the regional manager with whom he had shared steak just 2 Fridays prior. He maneuvered his sleek black 2011 Honda Accord into a spot down the street, not out of obligation. The gentleman had the means to fill his garage with a collection of imported vehicles. However, today wasn't focused on displaying any sort of bravado. He traversed the additional block in quietude, sensing the rough texture of the pavement beneath each footfall. As the dealership emerged in sight, the signage, pristine and striking, with Belton Auto Group emblazoned on the glass, caused him to hesitate. His name is known, but what was happening beneath it? The grievances began as murmurs. A customer in Murfreesboro expressed her confusion over an extended warranty that had been sold to her without clear explanation. A family in Franklin reported that their monthly payment did not match the agreement they had made. Nothing significant, yet it was sufficient to spark Derek's curiosity. This location in Charlotte, Tennessee, has consistently been among the most bustling, moderate-priced cars, substantial quantity. This place was held in high regard by many, or they once did. The showroom doors whispered open as he stepped inside. The aroma was a blend of coffee and a hint of Armor All. A bell chimed softly overhead, yet no one glanced up. Derek surveyed the area. 3 sales counters, 2 sales representatives engaged in conversation by the water cooler in the corner. Woman at the reception desk absorbed in her phone. He might have been anyone, and that was precisely his desire. He began with the service bay. Silence. The technicians were diligently engaged, fully absorbed in their tasks. There's nothing unusual about that. He navigated the customer waiting area, observing a man leafing through a magazine as his daughter entertained herself with a worn iPad. Assistance was nowhere to be found. The morning leaves much to be desired, not a single acknowledgement. He strolled toward the line of Camrys beside the glass wall. A couple lingered close by, engaged in a lively exchange with a salesman whose words tumbled out in a rapid, boisterous manner. The elderly gentleman wore a furrowed brow. The woman appeared exasperated. The salesman declared, "Sir, you won't discover a better deal anywhere else. This item is still under warranty and has seen minimal use. However, I can maintain this price only if we finalize the agreement today. That's simply how things are." Derek hesitated. That type of high-stakes delivery wasn't aligned with his training methods. He registered it in his mind. He rounded a corner by the pre-owned inventory office and came to a halt. A young woman, perhaps in her late 20s, wearing a thin jacket and carrying a baby in a carrier, was engaged in conversation with a man dressed in a navy blazer. She appeared anxious, frequently stealing glances at a tattered envelope clutched in her hand, likely containing pay stubs or a bank letter. The salesman exuded an air of confidence, perhaps overly so, as he spoke with a blend of charm and assuredness. The salesman mentioned that you will receive complete coverage for the initial 3 years, from front to back, including the powertrain. If anything malfunctions, including the air conditioning, it's all taken care of. That was not accurate. The fee of $895 that I referenced is quite typical. We implement that across all our agreements. It includes a comprehensive pre-delivery inspection, thorough interior cleaning, anti-theft measures, and VIN etching. Derek stood still, caught in the moment. What is VIN etching? That was removed from the dealership's process 3 years ago. What about the warranty coverage? Actually, that's not how the terms were structured at all. He had taken it upon himself to revise those contracts, ensuring they were clearer and more straightforward. His heartbeat gradually diminished. He stepped back, slipping from their sight, heart racing. Though not from rage, it was a letdown. This was his craft. That was the name he went by. And this man was effortlessly deceiving a woman who appeared to have scrimped and saved every penny to be in this moment. Yet Derek hesitated to unveil his true self. Not at this moment. He had to discover the limits of its potential. Derek, quietly, maneuvered behind a line of brochures by the finance office, observing discreetly. Ensuring he remained unseen, the woman listened attentively, her head nodding in agreement with each point the salesman made. Her fingers clenched the envelope with intensity. The infant in the carrier wriggled and emitted a gentle whimper, yet she hardly paid attention. She was making a concerted effort to maintain her composure, likely assessing how the figures aligned with her financial plan. The salesman leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "There's no need for concern," he assured. "Individuals often feel anxious when it comes to credit checks. However, I understand how to navigate the system. I'll make sure you have something today, even if we have to be." Imaginative. She paused, her gaze darting toward the door, yet the salesman maintained a calm, comforting tone. Excessively polished, overly self-assured. Derek tightened his jaw, then averted his gaze. He wished for her to feel unobserved. He strolled to the far end of the showroom, where a young lad lingered beside a used SUV. A salesman strolled by him on 2 occasions, failed to acknowledge him. I didn't inquire if he had any questions, simply glided past. Derek approached the boy. "Are you considering this one?" he inquired. The teenager cast a quick look, a hint of surprise flickering across their face. "Perhaps. My aunt is outside. She requested that I take a look while she finds a parking spot." Derek gave a slight nod. "Do you happen to know what type of engine it features?" The child shrugged. "Not quite. She simply requires a sense of security. Last week, her car encountered a breakdown. One more attempt. Yet another client has been neglected. It hurt deeply, not due to the lost sale, but because it revealed everything Derek needed to understand. At some point, they ceased to pay attention, ceased social interactions. It was more than just a single rotten fruit. It was a sound, a motif. He strolled over to the reception desk. The woman remained with her gaze fixed downward. She tapped her screen, chewing her gum, lost in the endless scroll. Derek positioned himself before her, merely to gauge the atmosphere. A span of 10 seconds elapsed, then 2 decades. At last she raised her gaze and blinked. "Ah, hello? Do you have a scheduled meeting?" Negative. Derek spoke with a sense of tranquility, merely perusing. She offered a languid smile and gestured toward the floor with a casual wave of her hand. "They will reach you." They did not. For the next 30 minutes, Derek meandered through various departments. The sole individual who extended a hand was a young lot attendant named Trevor, barely 19 years of age. He noticed Derek by the service entrance and inquired, "Sir, do you need anything? Water has made its way inside. If you're interested in the new hybrids, I can get you a brochure." Derek beamed with delight. "I appreciate it. I'm doing well. May I ask what your name is?" "Trevor. Are you enjoying your time here, Trevor?" Trevor paused, uncertainty flickering in his mind. "Well, it's acceptable. Individuals can exhibit rudeness. It's not only customers, managers can be included as well at times. Yet I remain reserved." "Are customers treated with fairness?" Trevor cast his gaze downward, generally speaking. There was no trace of resentment in his voice, only truthfulness. Derek placed a hand softly on the child's shoulder. "Be cautious of who imparts wisdom, as the wrong influences can lead to misguided understanding." Trevor blinked at him, then gave a single nod. Just as Derek was about to inquire further, a familiar laugh resonated through the glass hallway. The salesman from earlier, identified by his name tag as Brent Collar, was now guiding the young mother toward a side office. She appeared engulfed by her thoughts, gripping her papers as if they were her only salvation. Derek trailed behind, keeping his distance. Brent paused at the office door, delved into a file and extracted some paperwork. He mentioned the first quote. "It may appear elevated, but there's no need to worry. I'll refine it once I have your information entered into the system. This is our beginning." Derek moved in a bit, feigning interest in a flyer affixed to the wall. From his perspective, he observed the quote. The figures were enhanced. Fee for warranty. Service charge from the dealership. Etching of the VIN. Assurance of upkeep. Everything is unconventional. None of it was sanctioned. It was all that Derek had battled to eliminate years prior. Yet Brent appeared to be someone unbothered by the prospect of defying conventions. He appeared to be a man unaware of any observers. Brent gestured for the woman to take a seat. She settled into the chair, gently placing her baby's carrier on the floor beside her. The small child let out a soft whimper and kicked gently. Yet Brent remained oblivious, not casting a single glance downward. His gaze was locked onto the documents he held tightly. Turning over, emphasizing, revolving, each action refined, perfected, and instinctive. Thus, he remarked, "We will organize this to ensure your monthly stays below 350. Does that sound appealing?" The woman nodded slowly and with caution. "Could you remind me of your name once more?" he inquired, scarcely lifting his gaze. "Monique," she responded. "Monique Ellis." Derek leaned against the wall outside the office, feigning interest in the certified, pre-owned display. Every word reached his ears with clarity. Brent smiled broadly. "Very well, Monique. You're going to absolutely enjoy this. Your application has been approved for a 2019 Corolla. In superb condition, minimal mileage. That's a significant victory. However, our priority is to ensure your safety, isn't it? We are offering a comprehensive coverage plan that lasts for 3 years, all aspects, from the engine to the electronics. Assistance is available even if you accidentally lock your keys inside the vehicle. Such a sense of tranquility. Invaluable." Derek's hand gradually formed a tight fist at his side. No plan existed. It wasn't as Brent portrayed it, and the quote, the one he'd glimpsed earlier, held additional charges nestled in every margin. Some of them were purely imaginative tales. Monique adjusted her position in the chair. "Is everything included in the price?" Brent offered her a warm, encouraging smile. "This is included in your safety plan. We simply analyze it individually on the form. Simplifies the process for the finance office." He continued to speak, in haste, excessively assured. He gestured with the pen as if casting a spell. He even whipped out a calculator to make the payment seem less daunting. "Do you see? Without the package, the cost stands at $384 per month. However, with the added protection, we bring the price down to $349. More straightforward to handle, wouldn't you agree?" Derek squinted, his gaze intense. The math was utterly perplexing. It was an illusion, a facade. He couldn't fathom how Brent maintained his composure. It was evident that this was not his inaugural performance. Then Monique posed a question that halted all activity. Do you believe I could return tomorrow?" She spoke softly. "I simply want to ensure that I grasp everything completely before proceeding." Brent's demeanor changed, not overtly, just a bit. For a brief moment his jaw tightened, yet he bounced back swiftly, turning on the charm even more. "I completely understand that," he replied with a calm demeanor. "However, there's an important point to consider. This vehicle has 2 additional interested parties ready to make a move. This morning, one of them took it for a test drive. I can't guarantee it will remain available by tomorrow. Surely you wouldn't want to miss an opportunity over a trivial matter, would you?" Monique's eyelids fluttered. Her fingers danced nervously around the envelope. Brent hushed his tone, drawing closer. "Pay attention. I've observed individuals step back, believing they'll ponder it later. And then the car has vanished, and they find themselves trapped in a situation that's even more dire and costly. You are worthy of more. This is an improvement." He pushed the documents across the table to her. That was the end. Derek entered the office, maintaining a steady yet assertive tone. "That doesn't seem to align with the protection plan we provide." Brent's eyes fluttered open. Monique glanced at Derek, taken aback. Brent bounced back swiftly. "Beg your pardon?" "I mentioned," Derek echoed, "the strategy you're outlining. It is non-existent." "That's not the way." Brent arched an eyebrow, assessing Derek with a keen gaze. "Do you work here?" "Perhaps something along those lines." Brent let out a humorless laugh. "Listen, I'm not sure who you are. However, I have been here for 4 years. I'm thoroughly familiar with the packages." Derek gestured towards the quote. "Could you point me to the section that details full electronics coverage? Indicate the locations where VAR and etching are necessary. Provide me with the details." Brent paused, uncertainty flickering in his mind. It's recorded in the system. The finance department will provide a clearer explanation. No, Derek replied with a flat tone. Please provide an explanation. At this moment. Before her, Monique rose gradually, cradling her baby tenderly. Brent's cheeks turned a deep shade of red. This is something I can choose to avoid. You aren't even... However, he halted abruptly in the middle of his thought. The general manager appeared just behind Derek, eyes wide with surprise. Mr. Belton, the manager stated. Brent's jaw fell slack. Derek remained expressionless. Remained silent. He shifted his gaze to Monique. My apologies, he murmured gently. This is not the way we should treat others, absent from this place. Not in my name. Yet this was far from the end. Not at this moment. The harm extended far beyond. A single falsehood. The atmosphere shifted instantly the moment the name Mr. Belton was spoken. Brent's complexion drained of color. His assured demeanor dissipated like mist on a frigid pane. Monique glanced back and forth between the two men, a look of confusion on her face as she cradled her baby against her chest, uncertain about the situation she had just entered. Derek glanced over at the general manager who was positioned in the doorway. I require a conference room, he stated softly. At this moment, the manager, a man with a flushed complexion named Jeff Lawman, nodded and gestured toward a corridor at the rear of the showroom. Derek turned to Monique and spoke in a gentle, even voice. Kindly accompany me. I aim to correct this situation. After a moment of uncertainty, she decided to follow. Her steps were deliberate, hesitant. The infant started to whimper once more, perhaps due to the abrupt shift in the atmosphere. As they strolled by the desks, an eerie silence enveloped the entire floor. The calls ceased to come in. Dialogue halted. A handful of employees glanced over their cubicles, leaning in to share hushed conversations. Trevor, the lot attendant from earlier, lingered by the entrance, his gaze meeting Derek's with a hint of familiarity, yet silence hung between them. In the cozy, glass-walled conference room, Derek graciously pulled out a chair for Monique before taking a seat across from her. Jeff entered behind them, his anxiety evident. Brent followed closely, attempting to maintain an air of indifference, yet his efforts were in vain. With his arms crossed, he leaned casually against the distant wall. Derek extended his hand toward the folder that Brent had set down on the table. Is this the quote you provided her? He inquired, his gaze fixed elsewhere. Brent moved slightly. What is it? Derek opened it, fanned the pages, and marked several numbers with a pen from the holder on the table. Clarify these, he instructed. Brent adjusted his posture. Honestly, I'm not sure why I'm under such scrutiny. Elucidate them. A moment of stillness. Brent shot a look at Jeff, seeking support, but Jeff averted his gaze. Well, those are certainly typical charges. All individuals. Incorporate them. Is there a document available that confirms the approval of these fees? Derek insisted. They exist within the framework. No, they're not, Derek stated, his voice now more resolute. I assisted in reworking the system. What about that VIN etching fee? No longer available since 2021. What does the powertrain coverage entail? Restricted to just 5 years, falling short of the comprehensive coverage you assured. You added more than $2,000 in unnecessary fees to a woman who came in simply looking to purchase a safe vehicle for her child. Monique's hands quivered ever so slightly as she absorbed the words, yet she remained silent. Her gaze remained locked on the page. Did you mention that the payment would be $349s? Derek pressed on. That can only happen if she provides a down payment. That you didn't bring up. Moreover, the interest rate you provided her is exaggerated by a minimum of 2.5%. You're not merely stretching the facts, Brent. You're damaging it. Brent propelled himself away from the wall and assumed a more upright posture. I've consistently achieved my goals each quarter. Clients leave with smiles on their faces. I'm well versed. In the art of selling, you know. Derek inclined his body, drawing closer. You understand the art of persuasion. A distinction exists. At last, Jeff found his voice. Derek, I had no idea he was involved in all of that, I promise. We've been hard at work, and the results have been promising. Derek interjected, pinpointing the issue precisely. Your concern was with the figures. I had a genuine concern for the individuals. Monique rose to her feet, her cheeks burning with a mix of humiliation and fury. I believe this was a nice spot, she murmured. Derek turned to her, and she truly believed this was something unique. It was meant to be. I apologized that it wasn't. He delved into his back pocket, retrieved his wallet, and extracted a card. This is my personal contact number. I will take it upon myself to ensure you receive a just agreement. If the car is what you desire, it will be yours, for the right value, free from the excess. She grasped the card with deliberate slowness. Thank you very much. And we'll have another person take care of the paperwork, Derek added. A person who refrains from creating numerical values. Brent let his arms fall to his sides. Clear out your desk, Derek instructed, rising to his feet. Your time here has come to an end. However, there will be no discussion on this matter. You were aware of the truth. You simply showed no concern. Brent chose not to engage in further debate. He burst out, grumbling quietly to himself. He walked alone. Derek glanced over his shoulder at Jeff. Our conversation is far from over. I'll meet you in your office in 10 minutes. He swung the door open for Monique and guided her back toward the lobby. All eyes were drawn, whispers resumed, laden with a sense of shame. Derek remained silent until they arrived at the reception desk. He gazed at the woman seated at the desk. Did you say hello to her when she entered? The receptionist gulped. I can't recall. Derek slowly shook his head. Begin to recall, or begin your search. However, dismissing a single individual wouldn't resolve the underlying issues. Derek understood that a shift in culture was essential, or the company would decay from within. Derek found himself in the solitude of Jeff Lawman's office, gazing through the blinds at the dealership floor below. The stillness enveloped everything. Beyond the shut door, the familiar sounds of the showroom had resumed, casual exchanges, steps echoing on the tile, telephones are ringing. Yet, an additional essence lingered in the atmosphere at that moment. Pressure. He glanced over as Jeff entered, his movements uncertain. The man appeared diminished, as if he had just come to terms with how long he had been oblivious to his surroundings. Jeff took a seat uninvited. He spoke softly, revealing his ignorance. I promise you, Derek, I had no idea Brent was involved in that. Yet you were aware of something, Derek responded. It was clear that grievances were on the upswing. It was clear that the negotiations were becoming increasingly intense. It was clear that customer satisfaction scores declined in the last quarter. And you attributed it to surveys, while Jeff remained unresponsive. Derek leaned in, resting his elbows on the desk. What became of what we created together? I believed we were managing just fine, Jeff remarked. The figures were impressive. The rate of staff turnover remained minimal. I thought perhaps the landscape had simply evolved a little. The industry remained unchanged, Derek remarked, maintaining a steady tone. We evolved. We lost sight of the reasons that drew people here initially. We ceased to regard buyers as individuals and began to see them merely as figures to achieve. Jeff let out a deep breath, his hands moving to his face in a weary gesture. What comes next? Derek stated that they clean the house, and not merely by letting Brent go. Please review all deals from the past 90 days. Return any items or services that were not adequately clarified. I would like to schedule individual meetings with each salesperson. I'm eager to learn about their training process, what they are instructed to focus on. I'm curious to hear who else believes it's acceptable to peddle falsehoods while wearing a grin. Jeff gave a slow nod. Additionally, Derek mentioned, I need Trevor to come to my office next week. Jeff's eyelids fluttered momentarily. The child from the lot. Indeed, he was among the few who made genuine eye contact with a customer today. That is significant. A sudden knock at the door broke the silence. The receptionist appeared increasingly anxious. Excuse me, Mr. Belton? Monique Ellis, the customer, remains in the lounge. She mentioned that she's awaiting her transportation. Derek rose to his feet. Excellent. Bring her a bottle of water and invite her to take a seat in the private lounge. Anything but those plastic chairs by the vending machine. Value her as a significant presence in your life. The receptionist gave a swift nod and disappeared. Derek stepped back into the showroom. A handful of employees glanced up. yet silence reigned among them. Some completely averted their gaze. Monique settled into the distant corner, the baby peacefully dozing in the carrier next to her. She appeared, weary, exhausted not only in body but also in spirit. He moved in silently. He acknowledged the weight of the situation, saying, "I know this was a lot." "More than you expected," she gave a subtle smile. "I've faced greater challenges before." Derek expressed his trust, saying, "I believe you." "Yet that doesn't imply you ought to have endured this," she shrugged. "It seems that deception surrounds me constantly. In the workplace, in retail environments, and even at the medical facility. I've grown accustomed to it." That struck deeper than he anticipated. "Indeed, that shouldn't be the case, and not in this place. I take full responsibility for that." She cast her gaze upon him now, truly examined. "What brings you in today? Wearing something like that?" Derek offered a gentle smile. She let out a soft chuckle, amused by the fact that people often withheld the truth from the man in the suit. "It seems that way." He presented her with a petite folder. "If you're still interested in that car, here are the actual figures. Everything is out in the open. I had our finance manager handle it directly. We included an additional year of service maintenance at no cost." Her eyebrows lifted. "What is the reason?" Someone must remind this place of its true purpose. Moments. Later, her transportation arrived, a silver hatchback notably lacking a hubcap. Her sister gestured from the driver's seat. Monique rose, shifted the carrier and glanced back at Derek. "Protect what you've created from their interference." "I won't," he stated. She exited without a single glance over her shoulder. However, it wasn't solely Monique's trust that required restoration. The faith of all who ever crossed that threshold was palpable. Derek made his return 3 days later. This time there will be no masks. Seriously, only no jeans. He strode in through the front doors, clad in a fitted navy suit, exuding an air of ownership over the space. For that reason, he did. However, this was not an assertion of dominance, it was responsibility. All members of the staff were informed that morning. All meetings have been cancelled, calls redirected to voicemail. The dealership remained open, yet no transactions would take place until after 11 a.m. Derek arranged a meeting for everyone to attend. Everyone made it, including those on part-time schedules. Their voices mingled in the break room, a tight cluster amid the hum of vending machines and the creak of tired chairs. Several rested against the walls. Trevor lingered at the rear, arms folded yet attentive. Jeff positioned himself at the front, his notebook lying open yet remaining blank. Derek positioned himself in front of them. There is no microphone available, no platform, only his voice. He mentioned that he established this company in 2004. Not through investors or a franchise agreement, but rather with a pre-owned car dealership, situated behind a barbecue restaurant in Murfreesboro. In the first week, I successfully sold 3 cars and took the time to wash each one by hand. A handful of individuals let out soft chuckles. At that time I was uncertain about my chances of success. However, I possessed a pair of things, my identity and my promise. I never made commitments I couldn't fulfill. I have never gazed into someone's eyes and deceived them to finalize an agreement. The atmosphere was still at this moment. However, certain aspects have shifted here, he went on. It's not merely a single salesman. It's about allowing minor details to pass unnoticed. How we prioritize urgency over waiting. How we've begun to view individuals as targets for sales rather than as human beings. That isn't what I had created. That's not who we are, he surveyed the room. If you've ever imposed a charge believing you could slip it by unnoticed, if you've ever hurried a woman out the door because she seemed unable to afford it, if you've ever belittled someone simply because you had the power to do so. Today marks a pivotal moment as a handful of individuals shifted in their seats, clearly unsettled. There lies a decision before you, he remarked. Please assist me in resolving this issue, or I will need to consider other employment options. There's no middle ground. Once more silence envelops the space. Suddenly a voice emerged from the side. It was Trevor. Derek turned to Mr. Belton. Indeed, Trevor appeared anxious, yet chose to express himself regardless. What if a few of us were on the right track? Yet did anyone truly take notice? Derek beamed with delight. At that point, we begin to observe. From this day forward, he approached and presented Trevor with a modest envelope. Within the envelope lay a letter announcing a well-deserved promotion. Transitioning from a lot attendant to a junior sales associate, position complete with comprehensive training and benefits. Trevor's eyes fluttered open. Are you for real? Derek described it as a heart attack. The individuals who show respect to others are the ones I wish to have associated with my name. Following the meeting, transformations occurred swiftly. The deals made by Brent underwent a thorough review. 5 of them needed either complete or partial refunds. Monique's case served as a focal point in a training seminar. All managers were mandated to participate in a 3-week workshop focused on ethics and customer care. Derek even brought back a retired employee, Arlene Cupp, a straightforward woman in her 60s who previously managed the front desk. She departed 2 years prior, claiming the atmosphere had lost its essence. She had just taken on the role of leading customer relations. What will Arlene do first? Putting up a glass wall between the sales desk and the finance office ensures that all conversations are transparent and nothing is discussed behind closed doors that wouldn't be shared openly. Derek strolled through the lot that Friday, observing the way the staff interacted. The atmosphere felt distinct, imperfect, however more subdued. Exercise greater caution, not from a place of fear, beyond perception. He lingered by the line of sedans, observing as a young salesman knelt beside an older gentleman, articulating the distinctions between trim levels with a respectful tone, ensuring he didn't overshadow the listener. That was the sort of insight no spreadsheet could capture, yet it held greater significance than any monthly goal. Arlene accompanied him. It seems they haven't forgotten their employer, she remarked. They better, Derek responded, because I'm not backing down. Yet, one final element remained to be finished, the recollection of the significance behind this from the very beginning. On that Sunday morning, Derek found himself seated on the porch of his mother's cherished old house in Jackson, Tennessee. The sun had just begun to rise, and the atmosphere was still wrapped in the tranquility of dawn. He took a slow sip of his coffee, gazing out at the yard he once mowed every Saturday during his teenage years. Years had slipped by since her departure, yet the essence of the place remained unchanged, but now it belonged to him, a recollection encased in stone and timber. He retrieved a photograph from the depths of his jacket pocket, worn, corners turned up. In that moment he appeared no older than 10, standing next to his mother in front of a faded, rust-colored Oldsmobile. Her face beamed with a broad smile, filled with pride, not due to the car's novelty. It was not. Yet, it belonged to her. That was the day she acquired her very first vehicle, fully paid for. Without a co-signer, assistance unavailable, only her, the salary of a nurse, and a salesperson who patiently detailed every document before she affixed her signature. Derek recalled the way she meticulously triple-checked every detail, how she inquired, her voice quivering with uncertainty, and how the man behind the desk always ensured she felt empowered for taking that step. That memory lingered in his mind, and now, years later, he found himself seated at the desk. The individual whose name graced the showroom's facade. The individual accountable for the emotions experienced by each customer as they entered his establishment. He cast his gaze upon the picture once more. That moment had defined him, showed him that dignity wasn't a reward for wealth. It was a reward you earned simply by being present, through effort. Life offered little to his mother. Yet on that day, it bestowed upon her a sense of respect, and that lingered in his mind. The next week at the dealership, Derek requested a new plaque to be placed by the entrance. It stated, "We approach each customer as if they're purchasing their very first vehicle, with grace, perseverance, and honesty." He wasn't seeking viral fame. No need for PR headlines. He simply required all employees to go through it, each and every day. Trevor certainly did. Each new dawn, to begin with. After a month had passed, Monique returned to have her car serviced. She strolled in, clad in a hoodie, embracing her daughter. She smiled upon seeing Trevor behind the desk. "Do you recall who I am?" she inquired. He returned the smile. "Of course I do. We have you in that silver Corolla, correct?" She gave a slight nod. "She's performing exceptionally well." They engaged in further conversation, only minor details. Yet, it felt completely natural. At this moment, it seemed just as it should be. Derek observed from his office, hidden from view, simply taking it all in. He preferred to stay out of the limelight. He had no desire to be. The focus wasn't on him. This was the crux of the matter. A successful business isn't solely constructed on profit. Trust is the foundation upon which it is constructed. The manner in which you engage with others when you believe no one is observing speaks volumes. He picked that up from his mother. He brought it to the attention of others via Brent. And now, with each handshake, each transaction, each explanation provided with clarity and honesty, he reconstructed it piece by piece, letter by letter. That is the essence of what soul truly represents. It's not a matter of assertion, a cherished possession you safeguard, because once it disappears, reclaiming it demands all your strength and determination. Derek Belton was determined to ensure that his name represented nothing short of the truth. If this narrative resonated with you on a personal level, if it brought back memories of a moment when you felt insignificant, or a moment when someone defended you without any obligation, go ahead and click that subscribe button. More narratives are on the horizon, resonating deeply with the soul. Beyond the headline,